Let's talk about miniatures. I've been known to do some role-playing.
Hey guys, let's gab about goblins! Take it from someone who's been DMing for a very long time. You are going to run more games that start at first level and never go anywhere, or start at first level and maybe get to third or fifth, than you'll ever run a game that goes from first all the way to 20th, or 15th, or even gets into the double digits. And that means you're going to want to have a lot of those first level basic monsters on hand. Let's face it, there isn't a single D&D player out there who hasn't cut his teeth on goblins. Goblins, orcs, undead rats, spiders, all that sort of stuff. That first level fodder monster, those are important to have on hand as a player. If you're going to have miniatures, those are what you want. So if you're new to DMing and you're starting out today, where do you go for goblins? Well, looking online, I don't really like what I see. Games Workshop offers a variety these days, although I don't see goblin archers, so you'll have to go somewhere else for those. Both of their units, they have 2 units of goblins, or what they call grots. I don't know, do they lose the copyright on the word goblins? I don't know what's going on there. Got these new ones, where are 24 with odd assorted weapons, which, if you're going to use them in D&D, I guess you have to stat them all out as improvised weapons, or, these, I don't know what these garbage weapons count as. 24 goblins for $40, making each one of these, got little small guys, $2. And you don't really get a variety of weapons. Well, you do, but they're all improvised. And this other unit, which is all goblin spearmen, 20 for $40 after shipping, something like that. Maybe more. Maybe the shipping's more. I don't even know. So $2 a pop for Games Workshop. For that money, you can buy any of the adventure books that are out there. Princess of the Apocalypse, Rise of Tiamat. Boy, that's going to add much more value to your game than just a handful of goblins with all the same weapons. Now, Mage Knight put out a variety of goblins. They're not even bad looking, especially by Mage Knight standards. They're actually quite nice. But you got to hunt around for them, and they're not that cheap anymore either, because they're sort of in demand. They're one of those great Mage Knight figures that translated, and unfortunately can't find a lot of them in stock. You see here on Troll and Toad, not even that cheap. It's like $1.50 for one. Again, that's before shipping. Of course, there are Pathfinder goblins, and there's a couple of sources for those. One being, of course, the collectible miniatures, and they're $3 before shipping a piece. So you can either buy those out of the boosters, and you get what you get. And I can't even tell you, if you want a horde of goblins, like 20 or more, I have no idea how many boosters you'd have to buy. Probably hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth. Not sure that's a great deal. And then we go over to Reaper, and we see that they have packs of 4 goblins for $3. You know what? That's not bad at all. But a couple of things. For one, if you're going to put a line of goblin archers together out of these, they're going to look identical. And that goes for the spearmen. You see this, we're going to have this line of goblin spearmen here. They're all going to have that same patch on their eye, which I could forgive, but that's the problem when you make characters very unique. Now, variety, you can buy a couple of the different Reaper Goblin sets to mix and match them up, but then you don't really get a very good variety of weapons that way. If you were to go this route at the store, you could get yourself 16 goblins for $12. That's not bad at all. I'm not even crapping on that option. That's fine. But if you want to just spend a hair more, like $2 or $3 more, you can go out, get this box of goblins by Caesar Miniatures. It's got 36 goblins in it. You're going to see the same kind of uniformity, but they're plain. And that looks better. If you put an eye patch on every single one of them, there's got to be a reason why they all have an eye patch on their right eye. In this case, they don't need any explanation. They're just goblins. They happen to not have been injured yet. Perhaps this is their first battle with the adventurers. They live in this cave. They have short generations. Hey, it works. I know my Caesar reviews kind of seem like puff pieces, but I promise you I am going to be objective here. I am going to talk about what I don't like about this set, and there are a couple of things, as well as all the things I do like about it. Now, of course, for starters, the price is my strongest recommendation is if you're getting into D&D and you've got a few bucks to spend on miniatures. This is about, I always see threads where people are like, I'm new to D&D, what minis should I buy first? These Caesar miniatures are probably where you're going to get the most out of your money. You don't even really need to paint them up. I mean, if you don't have a problem with unpainted miniatures, and from what I see on and a lot of game tables, most people don't, you're going to get a swarm of goblins, all the goblins you'll ever need for every adventure, in 12 bucks. And if you do need more goblins, spend another 12, and now you've got an army. Now you can run mass combats. You've got, ranks of spearmen and other kinds of goblins out there, and it's just a really good deal. I also really like the material Caesar Miniatures use to make their minis. They're not brittle like some plastics, they're not brittle like metal. They're just about perfect. If you got guys at your table who are a little rough with your stuff, hey, this is the minis for you. I like the variety of poses in this pack. There's two kinds of spearmen, there's two kinds of short sword wielders, guys with large mauls, well, probably size normal mauls. You've got guys with clubs and rocks. Now, there are a couple of poses I don't care for in this set. There is a goblin throwing a bomb, which I would much rather have archers. There's three types of ranged weapon goblins in this set. You've got 4 archers, 4 guys throwing rocks, and 4 guys throwing bombs. The guys throwing rocks and throwing bombs are bad. They're just lame. It's not something I'm going to put on my tabletop. I'm not going to, they give rocks to the guys wielding clubs too. I wish they would have just gave us more of those. Just put a club in their hands. I'd rather have 8 of that pose than... I'm not going to have goblins appear and throw rocks at my PCs and then run off and have nothing else to draw upon. And the same with black powder weapons, or even if they're smoke bombs or whatever. It just doesn't fit the flavor of most of the games I run. I've never had goblins using black powder before. If you're running Iron Kingdoms or something like that where black powder is really common, then hey, these are great. I didn't use them. And also the set comes with a standard bearer, which is more for if you're going to use these miniatures to play, Age of Sigmar or something like that, or some other fantasy war game. You might want a banner. I don't paint up the banner wielders out of the Caesar sets. I never have, because I don't use them for war games as a rule. And the war games I do play tend to be skirmish games, and they don't usually have banners, so... Another thing I love about Caesar Miniatures is the way they're packed and shipped. There's no big sprues to rip them off of. You don't have to cut them off. They're not this rigid plastic that you have to take a safety knife to and pop them off to sprues. They come already separated. They come in a little bag where all the miniatures are on top of each other. There's a couple little plastic sprues by the feet, but it takes seconds. If it takes you more than a minute to clean them up, you're working very slowly. They're very easy to clean up, and far easier to pop off their sprue than anything I've ever gotten from Games Workshop. The sculpts on these goblins are fine as a rule. The quality is okay. Could they have used a little more detail and personality? Sure. But at this price range, they're amazing. One of the weaknesses of Caesar Miniatures is that they are 25mm. That's true 25mm, which harkens back to the early days of D&D. If you ever get your hands on an old lead miniature, you might wonder why the humans are a little on the small side. Well, that's because Games Workshop scaled up miniatures to 28mm heroic scale, and everybody sort of followed suit. And that's across the board, not just with size. Everybody's, you say what you want about Games Workshop, they do sort of lead the market in every way. In style, they are the first ones to make their orcs all bulky, of something I'll be talking about in another video, all beefcakey, and that's where everybody's at now today. But most of these Caesar miniatures are 25mm, which means there's got to be, there's a size discrepancy. But not with these goblins. Yeah, these goblins are a hair smaller than the goblins you'll see from other sets, but it's unnoticeable. You put them next to another character, like this elf, and you'll see that they look fine. That's the size goblins should be. They look great. So obviously, I recommend these goblins very highly. I think it's one of the best uses for your miniature money that you can spend $12, $13 on. How far does $12 go for Games Workshop or Privateer Press miniatures? One special character. With these Caesar miniatures, you can cross goblins off your checklist. Spend $12, boom, I've got all the goblins I need now for Dungeons and Dragons, for any fantasy RPG that uses goblins, and let's face it, most of them do. To paint them, I just primed them with gray primer. That's about 3/4 of them, and I did 1/4 of them in black. Layers of paint beyond that, but not too many. They're pretty simple, and they got very simple paint jobs. They painted up really quick. This is one afternoon, about 3-4 hours to do the whole set, at least to paint it to my standard. I also flocked the base and took care of that as well. Glued them onto little copper discs that I find on the street. Anyway, if you're on the fence about picking these up, these Caesar miniature goblins, do it. Beginning DMs, buy this box. Get your hands on a couple of rats or wolves, a couple of orcs maybe, and that's it. You can populate your first 3 dungeons for your party with just this. It's got to be the best bang for the buck out there. I'm telling you, buy these miniatures.